If you've ever looked up exercises on how to get your first pull-up, you've probably gotten the advice to jump up on the bar in a pull-up position and slowly lower yourself down in what's called a negative pull-up. I bet you've also gotten this advice from someone who's freaking yoked and can do more than 10 pull-ups at a time. See, negatives are great conceptually, but depending on where you're at in your journey, you may have experienced jumping up to the bar to get into this position, only to find that the negative is really freaking hard still, and then you just fall to the ground like a rock. I know this because this is the same advice that people give for training the one-arm pull-up, which is a journey that I'm constantly on, and I am constantly falling to the ground like a rock. The thing is, I can do a one-arm pull-up most of the time, but training the negative is still just like way too hard for me to do repetitions of, and so I needed to find another way. And now I want to try and teach you what I've learned from trying to train the one-arm pull-up that I think directly applies to training the two-arm pull-up, which is training with resistance bands. Resistance bands and a pull-up bar are the most basic items of equipment that you need in order to train pull-ups, but there are some issues with resistance bands that we need to deal with. See, they're basically giant rubber bands, so as you come down like a trampoline, they're already pushing you back up. This means that you can easily and accidentally cheat the reps by using momentum to make the next rep easier. The thing is, this will get you to do another rep, but it's not going to give your muscle as good of a stimulus in order for it to grow and grow stronger. The second issue with them essentially being giant rubber bands is that they're actually assisting you more at the bottom of the repetition than they are at the top. But this is actually something that we can get around, so we will deal with that at the end of the video. So using this minimum setup, how can we maximize the effectiveness of a resistance band pull-up workout? Let's get into it. So what are resistance bands great for? They're great for getting us into that pull-up position when we can't yet do a pull-up. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to rush the reps. We're not going to get a great muscle stimulus by just like flying through all of our reps. So what we want to do, especially when using something like bands that are assisting us, is we want to maximize our time under tension. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull up fast. You're going to hold at the top for about a second or two, and then you're going to slowly lower yourself down to the bottom position, taking about 2 or 3 seconds to lower yourself. Lastly, what we're going to do is we're going to pause at the bottom because remember, we don't want to use our momentum. We want to kill all of that and then start over fresh. And we're going to repeat this tempo of fast up, hold for a second, 2 to 3 seconds lower for all of our repetitions. We're going to be aiming for 3 to 4 sets of 6 to 10 slow and controlled reps. One of the things that drives me insane whenever I see people talk about negative pull-ups is they almost never talk about the number of repetitions to do or like the number of sets. Occasionally I've seen like, do 10 negatives, but it's like do just one set of 10. It's just, maybe it's a good enough stimulus, especially because you're working the eccentric, but it just does not feel like enough information to me. And especially because most people who are looking up how to do their first pull-up and are going to be doing negatives are most likely to be beginners. It's going to be harder for them to know exactly when they're going to get a good enough stimulus to like move on with their workout. So scrap negatives altogether, just for the sake of, for now, we're going to focus on the main ideas of bodybuilding. I know what you're probably thinking. You're not trying to win Mr. Olympia. You're not trying to do a bikini competition. Doesn't really matter. Bodybuilding has done all the research in terms of muscle growth. So let's just follow those principles. Again, we're trying to simplify everything. Start off with 3 sets. 6 to 10 reps is a great range to work in that's going to build muscle and it's going to build strength. Those are 2 slightly different things. Don't worry about that for now, but just know that this is a very good rep range to work in, especially for working towards your first pull-up, and it's like super easy to remember. You don't need to go to failure on these reps, but you should be close. So there's a concept called reps in reserve. When you finish a set, basically how many more reps could you have done until you reached failure? So you roughly want to be aiming for like 1 to 3 reps in reserve when you train in the 6 to 10 range. As an example, if you finish 10 reps and you feel like you can knock out 10 more, you would have 10 reps in reserve. Also, this would have been way too easy for you to do. And so you would have to make it more challenging for yourself. In this case, use a lighter band that's going to give you less help in order to make it more challenging so that by the end of your set, you have less reps in reserve. But on the flip side, if you can't do 6 reps on your first set, you should be making it easier for yourself so that you can actually hit that bare minimum in the rep range. Make sure that's on your first set. By your last set, if you're only able to do like 4, that's okay actually. You don't necessarily need to make it easier. As long as your first set you can hit the bottom of the rep range. All right, so how do we progress through this? So if you can hit 10 reps on your first 2 sets, you should make it harder your next time. This is basically called progressive overload. As you do this workout, you should be doing it about 3 times a week, preferably like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So you have like a day of rest in between each workout, and then, enjoy your weekend, have 2 days of rest before getting after it again. As you do this workout over and over again, it's going to get easier because you are going to get stronger. As you get stronger, you're going to limit yourself in the resistance you use or the reps. So as you get to that point, we want to do what's called progressive overload, and we want to actually make it harder for you. So like I said, do this exercise 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Commit to doing it for 8 weeks straight. I promise you, if you commit for this time period, you will see a lot of progress in those 2 months. What you don't want to do is you don't want to be checking every other day whether you can get your first pull-up or not. Put the pull-up aside for a second and just worry about doing the work, and then test yourself at the end of the 8-week cycle. Depending on where you're at, honestly, you may or may not be able to do a pull-up after that 8-week cycle. Building strength takes time. If you're a beginner, you have what's called like newbie gains, so you may move quicker, but building strength still takes time. And for some people, it's going to take a little bit longer than it will others. That is okay. You have to remember that in that 8 weeks, as long as you stick to the plan, you will have gotten much stronger. That's the important thing. In order to get your first pull-up, you have to get a little bit stronger. Each 8-week cycle, you're going to get a little bit stronger, you're going to get a little bit stronger, you're going to get a little bit stronger. Eventually, that first pull-up will come. That's just a milestone. You're going to continue up from there too. Then you're going to get 2 pull-ups, 5 pull-ups, 10 pull-ups. You're just going to be repping them out at some point. But you have to commit to doing the work. So if you can't get your first pull-up after that first 8-week cycle, take a week off. Just take a week totally off. Do not do any of these workouts. You can do other workouts, obviously, but rest your arms, rest your lats, and then get back after it. Just keep slowly progressing, keep slowly making things harder as you get stronger, and you will eventually get your first pull-up. I promise you that. Okay, supplementing this workout. If you have access to more equipment like rings or dumbbells, at the end of doing a resistance band pull-up workout, you can supplement by doing ring rows. You can do bicep curls. What else can you do with those 2 things? You can do like dead hangs from the ring rows, dead hangs from the pull-up bar. Those are all going to be really good, and they're going to help supplement the training, which is only going to give your muscles a bigger stimulus and make that progression go faster. For those of you who are lucky enough to be in like a CrossFit gym or to be in a climbing gym like this, where you have this kind of setup, you can actually evenly distribute the band's assistance by attaching it to hooks on the rig. Then you can just stand on the band and use it this way so that it creates a more consistent level of support throughout the entire pull-up motion. I don't know. I actually don't think that's better. I think it still has the same issue. Yeah, maybe ignore that tip. Lastly, if you have access to a regular gym, you can use all of their equipment to supplement your pull-up training. This means that you can do lat pull-downs. That's going to be probably like the biggest one that will help supplement. You can do bicep curls. You can do rows. They have like a bunch of different row machines. Bonus points if it's incline rows. Those, again, it's whatever is going to be the most similar movement to the pull-up is going to help the most for the pull-up. Last but not least, if you have access to a regular gym, that means you probably have access to an assisted pull-up machine, and you should definitely use that instead of using bands, just because they help you evenly throughout, and it's so much easier to do progressive overload because you can slowly use less weight. And that's all I got for now. If any of this was confusing, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below, and I will help you out in your pull-up journey. Good luck, and I can't wait to see everyone pulling up. What's going on, everybody? You're gonna ruin this, dude.